So we're here today at Paardevlei. Used to be an old chemicals plant where they made AECI owned it, and they made all kinds of chemicals and stuff here over the years. But we're not here for that. We're here for this little old pickup that we've discovered standing here. It used to be probably someone's brand new vehicle, but it has seen better days. Let's have a look at it. So this is a Buick Standard Six Series 20. They were produced from 1925 to 1928. It was made on the GMA platform and was powered by an overhead valve straight six engine, which is kind of interesting because overhead valve was not very common in the 1920s. The six-cylinder produced 77 horsepower, and later models featured a one-piece windscreen. Obviously, this one doesn't have a windscreen anymore. This is a pickup version of it. So either it had a big load box on the back, or it had a cab on the back, maybe for delivery vehicles and stuff. As you can see, it's quite interesting that you sit on the fuel tank. And then also the wood on the chassis indicates that it should have had, like I said, either a load box or a load bin at the back. If we move a bit closer to it, there's actually something quite interesting on here. There's a plaque stating what all the horsepower and weight capacity of it was and carrying capacity. I will get to that as soon as I can. And then, as you can see, it looks like it's a very tiny gearbox that it had in with a very tiny prop shaft. Interesting thing about it is I don't see any hydraulic lines. So that tells me this thing had cable braking, which is kind of scary if you think about it. Drum brakes at the back, and it doesn't seem that it had any drum brakes or brakes whatsoever in the front. So you only had rear braking on this vehicle. If we move in closer to the engine, you can see it's a classic side valve six-cylinder engine with a overhead valve setup there. And if you move around the front here, you can see that it also had a hand crank. So if the starter motor didn't want to work or the battery was flat, you could go and crank it on the hand crank. So you had a lever that you would put in here, and you would literally crank the engine alive. It also has a generator setup, because this was before alternators were a thing, and a massive generator that also drives the distributor. Distributor obviously gives spark to your spark plugs. It has, what is interesting, a press lever to start the motor. So what you would do is you would switch the engine on, but the engine won't run, and then you would have to step on this little lever here. This little lever that you see there, you've pressed on it with your foot, and it would start the vehicle, or it will swing the vehicle. You also had a pre-select gearbox, which is quite interesting, and a braking system that worked off of the gearbox. So you could brake the gearbox. It looks like it, instead of pressing on the brakes. This was quite a long vehicle. Just gonna best guess it, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and a bit meters long. Interesting thing on them. If you look at safety, because it was so little cars back in those days, rear lights weren't really a feature on vehicles. So it only had this one light that would illuminate for you when you drive at night. So just one red light where your number plate sat here, and it illuminated your number plate. It's got quite a massive differential at the back. And it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, so here's your shafts. These are your shafts that when you applied the brakes, this would tilt and engage the brakes on either side. That one is free. No, that one is seized up, but this one is free. So you would press on the brake, and this lever would pull forward, and it would engage the drums on the rear. I don't know what this thing is made of, what type of steel this thing is made of, but this is one massive wheel drum. It also had wooden wheels. So because rims, steel rims weren't a thing back then. Like I said, they were produced from 1925 up until 1928. And if you can find one that's in a good condition, You're probably looking at paying about 300,000 rand for one. I will put some photos of decent looking ones from collectors when we do the editing. But yeah, it's quite an interesting little model. Let us get to the plaque. So this would have been imported because Buicks weren't built in South Africa. It actually says it on the plaque here, General Motors Export Company. So this was imported from the United States. It was probably built in Michigan. It was built, manufactured by General Motors Truck Company, Pontiac, Michigan, United States of America. It had a weight capacity of, it weighed 3,000. I don't know if this is pounds or it is kilograms, but I'm thinking closer to kilograms if I look at this chassis and I just look at the differential at the back. It could carry, oh wow, that's so sad. This massive thing, okay, obviously the engine limited on the power. It could carry 750 kilos. This one, although it is called a one-tonner, but it can only carry 750 kilos. This would, the number says this is 3,801st model of this vehicle. There is a warning on here. Caution, maximum speed, miles per hour, 50, no, 83, no, that can't be right. It couldn't do 83 miles an hour. I think that's 53 miles an hour, which is about 80 kilometers an hour. So it seems like you only had two little gauges here as well. Probably just a fuel gauge and a temperature gauge. And this was a massive light switch. Curb dim off, ignition. Oh, this was your ignition switch as well. So once you had it on ignition, you had to switch it to the right-hand side to go to dim or bright. Not that it would have made any difference in the lighting, because these lights were probably the most awful things in the world. Okay, so if you can look here, this is quite an interesting coupling here. It's probably filled with grease that would grease the drive shaft or the joint of the drive shaft. Like I said, I do believe this is an assistant on the brake. So when you're coming down, besides that it's your park brake, this is connected to the gearbox. So I'm pretty sure this is like on trucks where they have a trailer brake where you can you have the assistance of the lever to slow it down as you gear it down. I might be mistaken. You had your classic accelerator pedal and you had this is your clutch pedal and your accelerator pedal. Now, you know what? This is just the brake. I just realized this is just the brake. This is your accelerator. This is your accelerator, and they're on the same linkage here, but this thing seized up. That's why you can move both. But as you can see there, when you step on that one, it pulls the clutch fork to disengage the clutch. So this must have been literally your brakes, because there's no brake pedal. That is very interesting. Massive running boards on the side, yeah? Yeah, I'm curious as well. You know what I always say, which I always find fascinating? Somewhere along the line, this was a brand new vehicle. Somewhere it rolled off an assembly line. It went into a dealership. Someone paid good money for their brand new truck or pickup or bucky or whatever you want to call it, or van. We don't know what it was. We don't know what purpose it was for. But this used to be a new car. Now, that's kind of sad if you think about it. This was someone's pride and joy at one point. They loved this thing. And now it looks like this. Is this restorable? I highly doubt it. You might be able to save the engine, but where are you going to find the parts? I mean, if you look here, your push rods are seized in there. That's a broken push rod. It was probably there for number one. They're all seized up. This is interesting. You could change your cam followers. If you remove this plate, you had access to the push rod sides here, and you could pull them out and you can do your cam followers if you needed to replace them. But yeah, it's a very sad thing seeing a car in this state. This, if I'm not mistaken, is your coil. That is an ignition coil. So that is what gave spark, created spark for the engine. Interesting little car. I do believe this is the water pump. This is quite interesting. Your generator not only drives a distributor, it also spins your water pump. And if you see here, the old cars had these are bleed screws. So a water pump would leak, brand new, they would leak. So you would constantly fill these up with grease and tighten them ever so slightly, a little bit, till the coolant stopped leaking out. But that was a constant thing you had to do on these old cars. There was no closed cooling systems. It probably had one massive copper radiator in here with a, what do they call, a hood ornament? Because that was a big American thing. It was a big thing back in the day, was hood ornaments. I mean, if you look at my old Mercedes, it's got a hood ornament on it. That's not too long ago. So you had this interesting, this is a classic side flow engine, meaning your intake manifold would have sat here with your carburetor on. Air would go in here, combustion and wizardry would happen in here. And the gas would be expelled via the exhaust pipe, which should have come out here somewhere. I don't see where it would have been, but you would have a intake. I'm trying to see which ones are intakes and which ones are exhaust. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, this is an interesting thing. This is an interesting thing. I do believe that this, okay, now there is a gasket. So this is the cylinder head, and this would be your crankcase. Let's see if it's got oil in. Oh no, I think the oil is done. This owner's going to be in a little bit of a predicament. Yeah, look here. You can see, yeah, it's got the engine numbers here, 205679-1. So this is interesting. If you look, yeah, that's a Buick. Yeah, it says Buick. So the interesting thing is this: your gearbox splits. So you've got your bell housing and you've got your gearbox. So it's two different things. So your clutch would be in here. The interesting thing is how this is a typical way that the Americans build cars. You've got a loose bell housing. European cars do not have it. It's integrated into the transmission. But this would be a gearbox. This is not a transmission. This would be a gearbox. There most likely no synchro meshes on it. It was probably double declutching to change gears. It should have been, in my opinion, it must be an awful thing to drive. But yeah, this is quite an interesting find we found today. Love finding things like this. Always wondered about what the story of this vehicle is. Yeah, maybe someone has information on this vehicle. I'll run the engine numbers and I'll run the VIN and chassis number and see if I can find more information on this vehicle. But yeah, it's how was this truck's life? How hard did it work? Was it just a delivery vehicle? Was it a pickup truck that guys used for farming? It's always interesting. Who was the first owner? How many owners did it have? These are questions that always bug me when I find things like this. And like I said, it's kind of sad if you think about it. This was once upon a time a brand new car. Someone most likely felt about this car the way I feel about my Mercedes. And now it's just standing here. Most likely going to become either scrap metal or someone's going to turn it into a piece of art, which I wouldn't mind if it becomes a piece of art. Maybe a display at a motor museum or a sign for a motor museum as you come in. Love this. I love this solid old build quality on these things. I mean, you look at those leaf springs. You've got a solid axle in the front with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blades on a blade spring. And then at the back, you can see this thing could carry weight. I mean, just look at these leaf springs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, including the main blade. This thing could have carried some weight, but it also probably knocked your kidneys to the next century. If you drove this from here to Cape Town, you probably have to get a kidney operation afterwards. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful car. It's a beautiful idea of what it was. Sad, but fantastic in the same time, in the same sense. So, hope you guys enjoyed that one. We'll see you next time when we find something crazy or interesting. Join us on our next episode. And thanks for watching.